There is a sound haunting millions. It isn't outside. It isn't in the room. It's inside the head. A relentless buzz, a ringing, a high-frequency hum that never quite leaves. For some, it's quiet. For others, it drowns everything else out. They call it tinnitus, but something about it feels wrong. It's sudden, it's too widespread, it's synchronized with the rise of something else. Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, 4G, 5G, and every other silent pulse now saturating the air. This isn't just about ears. It's about frequencies. It's about control. And maybe it's about God. 2 decades ago, tinnitus was mostly associated with aging rock stars and veterans. Now, it's everywhere. Teenagers, office workers, healthy people with no history of hearing damage. The CDC estimates over 50 million Americans suffer from it. That number continues to climb. And curiously, the curve matches something else. The wireless revolution, the smart device era, constant hum of invisible energy surrounding us all. Okay? Science blames headphones and stress. But if you look deeper, something else begins to form. A pattern. One that leads to an unsettling possibility. That this ringing is not just internal. It's interference. Our lives are embedded in invisible technologies. Wi-Fi signals, satellite beams, cellular towers, RF identification, radar, smart meters. They wrap around us like a digital cocoon. These waves are neonizing, meaning they supposedly can't damage DNA, but they do interact with our biology. The brain operates on its own electromagnetic rhythms. It's delta, theta, alpha, beta. These brainwave states can be measured and altered. Exposure to EMFs affects them. This isn't a conspiracy. It's known science. So, what happens when we live in constant exposure to synthetic frequencies? What happens when natural biological rhythms are overridden? The body reacts. Sometimes with anxiety, sometimes with fatigue, and sometimes with a sound. For thousands of years, cultures believed sound was sacred. In Hinduism, the sound Om is the vibration of creation. The Greeks believed in the harmony of the spheres, a cosmic symphony playing throughout space. Christian mystics described hearing divine frequencies in deep prayer. Tesla believed everything, thoughts, light, matter, was frequency. So, if God, consciousness, or the divine is a vibration, then what happens if the world becomes too loud to hear it? What if we're being jammed spiritually, psychologically, and biologically by a constant artificial hum? What if tinnitus is not the disease, but the side effect of a war? Radio jammers work by flooding a frequency with noise, making it impossible for a message to get through. The signal is still being sent. It's just drowned out. Tinnitus may work the same way. Maybe the human mind, or soul, was once tuned to something higher, a baseline resonance, a frequency of peace, connection, presence. But in today's world, the air is full, not just with signals, but with distraction, manipulation, data, and noise. If a spiritual signal is still broadcasting, we might not hear it. Instead, we hear its distortion, a shrill reminder that we're no longer aligned. Frequency manipulation isn't sci-fi, it's military doctrine. DARPA has experimented with neural resonance technologies. The HARP project bombards the ionosphere with high-frequency waves. Silent sound spread spectrum was developed for psychological control, using inaudible tones to influence mood and behavior. The microwave auditory effect allows voices to be transmitted directly into the human skull. These aren't just patents, they're projects, active ones. Imagine this technology scaled globally, not for targeted war zones, but for entire populations. Flood the world with frequency, call it smart technology, make it inescapable, and ensure no one can hear the frequency of truth beneath it. A strange moment in musical history occurred in 1953 when the world standardized tuning to 440 Hz. Before that, Many composers tuned to 432 Hz, believed to be mathematically aligned with the universe, with nature, with the human body itself. After the switch, music became slightly more tense, less resonant. Some believe this change was intentional, that 440 Hz promotes agitation, anxiety, and disconnection. Whether true or not, it points to a deeper idea. The frequencies we surround ourselves with shape us. If music can shape mood, what about the endless signals around us, the ones we never consciously hear? People with tinnitus often report strange sensations. The tone fluctuates. It spikes during stress. It pulses at night. Some describe it as electrical. Others say it changes based on location, as if something external is modulating it. And here's where it gets more interesting. Some report an inverse correlation. When far from tech, in nature, the ringing subsides. Could this be coincidence? Or is it the body struggling to readjust to the absence of constant EMF pressure? What if tinnitus isn't your hearing failing, but your spirit trying to recalibrate? In religious and mystical traditions, the inner voice, conscience, intuition, divine whisper has been a guiding force. But in recent decades, that voice seems muted. Fewer people report spiritual clarity. Mental noise is constant. Distraction reigns. What if that inner voice came through a subtle frequency? What if the ringing is the garbled version, the failed connection? Maybe the soul is still trying to connect to something sacred, but it's being drowned by the machinery of the modern world. In the Bible, the Tower of Babel represents humanity's attempt to reach God, us, and how language was scrambled to sow confusion. But today, we're building another tower, not with stone, but with data, satellites, waves, smart grids, towers on every street corner. The confusion now isn't linguistic, it's vibrational. Instead of scrambling language, the signal has been scrambled. The divine, now buried under 1,000 competing pings. Not one voice, but endless chirps and rings and hums. The modern Tower of Babel is a digital one, and it keeps us spiritually deaf. Tinnitus doesn't just frustrate people, it isolates them. It's hard to sleep, hard to concentrate. It drives some to anxiety, depression, even suicide. But what if the emotional toll is not just from the sound, but from what it represents? A severed connection, a soul that can no longer hear silence, can no longer rest in stillness. And underneath all of that, a deep, subconscious knowledge that something is missing. Something ancient, something vital, something divine. Ask yourself this: why now? Why this generation? Why this moment in history? Why has a condition once rare become so common? Why does it track so perfectly with the rise of always-on tech, the disappearance of quiet places, and the shift in global consciousness away from the sacred? What if we're not just being deafened, but silenced? What if humanity is undergoing a spiritual muting, an effort to disconnect us from the frequency that once grounded us? What if tinnitus is the ringing of that severed line? The war may be invisible, but it's not unwinnable. We can take steps. Turn off what doesn't need to be on. Sleep away from your phone. Hardwire where you can. Go into nature, not once a year, but often. Fast from technology like it's poison, because in a way, it is. Create zones of stillness, quiet, silence. Listen deeply, okay? Maybe, just maybe, underneath the static, you'll hear something else. A low vibration, a peace, okay? A memory, the divine frequency still trying to reach you. You're not crazy, you're not broken, you're tuned in. And the pain of that tuning is not failure, it's resistance. It's your body and soul refusing to fully give in to the artificial grid. It's your mind reaching, still, for something real, something ancient, something sacred. Millions are feeling it. They just don't know what it is. But if you do, if you're hearing this and nodding, then you've already begun to wake up. If God is frequency, and if humanity once had a clearer channel to that signal, then today's world is a perfect jamming device, not just physical, but spiritual. Not just biological, but dimensional. The ringing in your ears may not be the malfunction. It may be the echo of a signal still trying to come through, still trying to remind you who you are, where you came from, and what we've lost in the static. This is not a metaphor. This is not just a strange condition. This is war. A war fought with invisible weapons, with towers, routers, chips, and signals. A war not on your ears, but on your perceptions, on your connection, on your soul. But there is hope. Because once you recognize the signal is still there, you can start listening again. And that might be all it takes.